Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's topic is how to be a yogi or how to be a magician. People who know me know that I really do not like to talk about myself or my background very much. So I will include some details pursuant to who I actually am in this recording. Please keep in mind this will be the only recording in the series that I will do this. The reason for this is very simple. I do not wish to be yet another cult leader. My goal with this line of training is to provide what is normally held in the hands of a select few to anyone who is willing and capable of doing the work. So, let us begin. My training. Well, my training actually started in my early teens, and this is not an uncommon phenomenon for people who do what I do. Quite simply put, in my early teens, I went through what would later on become Kundalini awakening. This was very uncomfortable and very confusing, as I came from a family in South Texas who was not particularly religious. As a result, I did not have the conduit of religion in which to place my experiences. There were both benefits and disadvantages to this. One of the benefits of being from a non-traditional society was, in a traditional society, when someone sees another person going through this kind of thing, whether that's an uncle, local shaman, local priest from a meditative order, whatever you choose, that individual at some point gets drug off to the monastery or the shaman training center, and that is what they end up being. They end up being a monk or a shaman or a medium or whatever their culture decides a person like that is supposed to be. I, not having the advantage of coming from a traditional society, didn't know what was happening to me. This led into a decade-long quest to find out what was going on. The simple fact of the matter is I had seen crazy people and knew I was not one of them. Because when the energy manifested around me, things would actually happen. This was quite confusing, and I was at least smart enough at that point in time to keep my mouth shut about all of this. So later on, when I began to figure out what was happening, I went out and pursued proper training. Lines of training that I have pursued. I have completed the micro-macrocosmic orbit as prescribed by Glenn Morris that resulted in going through the Kundalini. I have additionally trained Mind Light Ne Gung with Gary Kleiman out of Chicago. I have trained with an unnamed Taoist master who was, quite honestly, the most terrifying individual I have ever met in my life. And as we will discuss soon, that is quite a statement. This individual had the ability to generate esoteric power at a very high level at the near physical level and could be quite terrifying because they had a very sharp temper. This same individual stood just under 5 feet tall, weighed approximately 45 kilograms, and I personally witnessed them rip car door handles off doors when distracted. Besides this, I trained with an unnamed Sant Mat master who was also a vampire and is now dead. In addition to this, I have of course trained with Mark Rasmus. I have also trained with an unnamed cult leader out of the American Southwest who was also a disciple of Carlos Castaneda's teacher. He was an interesting man who, while greatly flawed, certainly had a fair amount of ability. These are all major teachers of mine. My major medical teacher is a man by the name of Lin Hai, who runs sacredjourneys.org, who taught me the Buddha's diamond palm breath retention system and system of esoteric medicine. I have also studied laboratory alchemy with Robert Bartlett and studied the internal martial arts with a number of teachers. My favorite of which is Zuran Min, or natural boxing. I am not very good at it, and had I encountered this earlier in life, probably would have been my primary pursuit until approximately this point in my life now. As many of you know, I am versed in Franz Barden's third book, The Key to the True Kabbalah, and it is my major work. Although I have also worked my way all the way through Saturn, and am now engaging in the outer planets and eventually the constellations, utilizing Franz Barden's second book, Practical Evocation, and its fundamental techniques. I have also spent time training the Golden Dawn system. This pretty much covers the major parts of my internal esoteric practice. Keep in mind there are many other people I have trained with over the years, learning this or that along the way. I simply do not name them in this discussion, as either they do not wish to be discussed, or the training was minor in nature and not a long-term contribution to what I do here and now. All right, that's the official part of my esoteric training. All of that is well and good, and somebody who learned how to do all of these things would certainly have a decent amount of ability. What often gets left out in these discussions is what transpires in a practitioner's life that allows them to perform these things. Keep in mind, I have known both poverty and a fair amount of what people would call wealth. I have been in several wars and was a commissioned officer in my country's military. Some of these wars, if you were around in 2021, you would know about. Several of these you would not. That took up the better part of 2.5 decades of my life. During this time period, I fractured 2 vertebrae in my back, had my endocrine system severely damaged by radiological and chemical exposure, survived malaria, dengue fever, been rendered unconscious multiple times, had most of the bones in my arms and legs broken at one point in time or another, and dealt with a variety of very unpleasant people on several different continents. I've been in over 40 countries. I've known saints, sinners, mass murderers, cult leaders, arms traffickers, drug traffickers, heads of state, foreign generals, and the like. The simple fact of the matter is, I'm a rather serious person who is also very private. Academically, I have degrees in engineering, medicine, as well as history. I have at various points in time spoken several different languages, although truthfully only 2 or 3 of which on any level approaching fluency. So I think this is all of my background you really need to know. Just understand that for people who practice and specialize in what I specialize in, Barden's 3rd book, Key to the True Kabbalah, people who practice the method contained in there of 3-part concentration using the ball above head method, all tend to have backgrounds that if you read them on a sheet of paper, you would believe to either be a lie or an act of fiction. I am, in this regard, by no means unusual. And to be honest with you, I haven't had nearly as rough a time going with it as many of my friends who've trained under different teachers. So I think this gives people enough of an idea regarding my personal background, and as a practical matter will not be discussed further in this coursework, because simply put, this coursework is about you, not about me. And on another note, when I die, I understand that these recordings and the books that I have written will long survive my passing. I do not desire a cult to be formed around me, because to be truthful about it, I simply wish to be a non-returner in the Buddhist tradition. So that is all I have to say about myself, and this will be the only time in the coursework that I discuss myself at length. Everyone out there, train hard. I hope to see you soon, and be well.